let's go through the phonetic drills here. And when you have a nu and a sigma meet each other, what is that going to produce? Okay, so we get a sigma. You can do that or this. I'm fine either way, okay? Just make sure that if this happens at the end of a word, then it needs to be the final sigma, right? Okay. Now, beta sigma. What does a beta sigma produce? Okay, so this becomes that psi. Can you psi it? All right. So labials and sigma produce a psi. A chi and a sigma? Okay, so this becomes xi. Xi. All right. So we mentioned a little while ago the beta is what kind of a consonant in terms of where it's articulated? It's a labial, so it's going to be in the labials for your square of stops. Chi is a velar. Velar is the punching bag region, a little bit before that top. Okay, delta sigma, what's that going to produce? It's going to produce a sigma. Okay, great. In other words, the dentals are produced where the tongue hits what part of your mouth? The teeth. And remember, the teeth like to fall out in Greek, dentals. Phi sigma becomes psi. Psi. Fsa. 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 Can you see how that would happen? Based on the principle of linguistic laziness? Fsa. Fsa. Right? Kappa sigma? Xi. Good. Theta sigma? Sigma. I'll just use that non-final sigma. P sigma? C. Good. Tau sigma? Okay. Good. Gamma sigma? C. Nu tau sigma? Ooh. You mean both of these fall out? Why does the tau fall out? That's right. Dentals, teeth fall out. Nu is left before sigma. Does that fall out before sigma too? That's right. Okay, great. And then a tau plus nothing at the end of a word yields nothing. That's right. What do we call this? Throwing in the tau. That's right. The Greek throws in the tau at the end of a word. Okay, we all good there? That's your phonetic changes. So make sure that you master those. You're going to see these over and over and over again, and you will especially see them with third declension forms. You're going to see a lot of this. All right, very good.
T with nothing, like in the lexical form, there won't ever be a T at the end.
Right. Your lexical form, if there's no case ending, then that tau is going to drop off too.
So like pa, or the, I don't know, I saw one a couple of times.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the word for name is anama. The actual noun stem is anamat. Remember, third declension nouns are consonantal stems. The stem ends with a consonant. This is neuter, okay? And it's singular. And in the nominative for neuter singular, the third declension case ending is nothing. And that means the tau is left. It will drop out. And so that's what you'll actually have for your lexical form, anama. Anama. All right? Good. Now let's look at the case endings. Let's just review. Up here on the case endings that we have, on the left side, we've got the first and second declension case endings, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Let's just jot down the declensions that they follow. The masculine follows second, feminine follows first, neuter follows second, okay? So the patterns that we're looking at here are 2-1-2 patterns. And the stem vowel for masculine, second declension, is going to be an omicron, right? Feminines are alpha or eta. Neuters are omicron. So just the case ending themselves without these stem vowels. Suin, if you like to try to create acronyms, suin, I'm suing you for lots of money. Sigma, upsilon, iota, nu, and then our plurals, iota, on, is, us. Feminine forms, remember, they are distinct from the masculine ones, not only in terms of the stem vowel, but the fact that we do have a few differences here. So nothing sigma versus sigma upsilon. These are the same. And then these are the same except for the final one. And then the neuters, remember we learned that the genitive and the dative are identical in terms of endings with masculines and neuters, but neuters have their own distinctive nominative and accusative forms that are always identical to each other, right? Neuters will be the same as each other in the nominative and accusative. So here they are identical to each other. Here they are the same as the masculine and genitive, dative, plural forms. All right, now let's take a look real quickly at the third declension nouns and in their case endings. Here you should notice an instant difference between these two sets. Third declensions, remember these are stems that end with consonants, so they're consonantal stems. There's no omicron, alpha, or eta here. And you're going to add these case endings directly to the consonant, okay? The masculine and feminines go together, so in this sense, they're like those two termination adjectives that we saw, where the masculine and feminines will look identical. This is going to be difficult for you in that because the masculine and feminine third declension case endings are the same, and because the consonant is what comes before the case endings, you are not going to be able to look at the form and know whether it's masculine or feminine. The only way you'll know is because you've learned the article. All right? Or you know the natural gender. Mother is not going to be masculine, for example. Father is not going to be feminine. But child is neuter, so that's kind of weird, isn't it? But you gotta really learn the gender of each noun individually when it's a third declension one. And then the neuters you associate as going with masculine and mirroring it all the time, but it actually has its some distinctive case endings of its own. So let's just walk through these real quickly. So we have the sigma for the nominative, for the masculine and feminine. So we're going to use the word sark, which is the word for flesh. That is the stem. Okay, I'll put a little asterisk here to indicate that this stem is theoretical. Remember, the stems never exist all by themselves in Greek. And that's why I'm using the asterisk for the stem, because that's a theoretical form. When I take the consonantal stem sark, which means flesh, and by the way, it's feminine here, and I add the kappa case ending for the third declension nominative singular, is that kappa and sigma going to stay like that? No. There's going to be this phonetic change here, at least in terms of the writing system, and it's going to become sarks. Now, that is your lexical form. It's hey, sarks. Can you tell that sarks is feminine just by the form sarks? No, you can't. You can't. The only way you know it is because of that article. There's nothing distinctly feminine about flesh, okay? So, and if all you learn is the nominative singular form for your lexical form, you can't really tell what the actual consonant is that forms the end of that stem, can you? And so when you see other forms like sarki or sarkas, it's not going to look like sarks with that xi there. You won't see a xi, okay? So let's take sark again, and we add the genitive case ending, which is omicron sigma, and then is there any phonetic change that happens here? No. So this gets to stay put. This is perfectly fine. So sarks becomes next sarkas. So notice the sigma is recognizable as a nominative case ending. The omicron sigma, no. This one you're going to have to really learn and commit to memory. Okay? But the good news is that you're going to see both of these together quite frequently because you'll see them in your vocabulary list. You'll be given the nominative form and then the genitive singular form. So you'll see sarx, sarcos. Okay? All right, the iota all by itself is the dative singular for third declension, masculine and feminine. Now that follows the pattern we've seen over here, right? And thank the Lord it does. So, sarki, sarki. So you can translate sarx as flesh or body. So we can go with flesh for the singular, but when we get to the plural, it's going to sound funny, won't it? Fleshes. So we could say body too. So let's say body. So sarx, one body. Sarkos, how would you translate that with that genitive case ending? Yeah, of a body. Of a body. Assuming there's no article, right? Of a body. Sarki, to a body, in a body, with a body. And the accusative is sarka. And here, you actually have two possibilities, an alpha or a nu. You can't just pick whichever one you want, okay? Some nouns will take an alpha for its accusative singular. Some nouns will take a nu. In this case, sarx will take the alpha, okay? Most of them will. Most of them will take the alpha. So basically, we'll just have to tell you when the nu is used.
Is there a rule?
It's not really a rule as much as it's just it's a characteristic of certain formations. Like the word pistis, faith, is going to do this one. But it's going to have some other unusual ways of doing its case endings. There'll be third declension case endings, but there's something that's going on with pistis where there's something called a yes, that's the consonantal iota that doesn't exist. Like you won't see it written, but it's affecting the spelling. So pistis's forms will look a little funny because that consonantal iota is interacting with the third declension case ending. All right, now let's go to the plural forms here. So again, we're going to use sark all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and jot sark down. Sark, sark, sark. And most of the time, we're going to be able to leave things the way they are. So bodies, sarcus, sarcone, of bodies, sarxine. What's going to happen here? Yep, kappa sigma has to become a xi, so it'll be sarxi, okay? And this nu that you see is a movable nu. You've already seen it on forms of sten, right? And so you may see it, you may not. It's not really a part of the case ending. It's just something to break up a vowel sequence if the next word begins with a vowel. And then sarkos is bodies as a direct object. Okay, so s, own, c, os. That doesn't look very much like a nominative plural ending, does it? You got to learn this one. Own, you own that one, don't you? That's good. Notice, by the way, that in Mounce's chart, he puts that underscore under the omega in these forms you learned first. Why? Because there's a stem vowel that gets obscured. You can't see it. Is there a stem vowel that gets obscured over here? Nope. These stems end with consonants, so there's no vowel to obscure. So that's why you won't see an underline or underscore here. We see the change here. And then the alpha sigma sort of looks like us, but not quite, right? But you've got sigmas here, and maybe that's helpful. If you can maybe think of it this way, the accusative singular is an alpha, and normally you add an s to something to make it plural. Accusative plural is the accusative singular with an s on the end. All right? Now, let's take a look at the neuter form. And here, we'll use anoma, which is that word for name, and it's going to have the article ta with it. So this is a tau with no case ending. The neuter case ending in the nominative singular third declension is nothing. 0. No case ending. What's going to happen to my tau here? It will go away. It will fall out, right? So we throw in the tau. And what you're left with is a form that doesn't show the full stem. That's not helpful, is it? But in the genitive singular, onomatos, that tau has no reason to fall out. This is why you're always given the genitive singular, so that you can drop the genitive singular case ending and know what the real stem is of that noun. Okay? So, onomatos. Onomatos. Okay, and then the iota is the same. So, onomati. Here's great news. Remember, one of your noun rules was that masculine and neuters have identical endings in the genitive and the dative. Okay, so those are the same. That nothing ending is not the same, but these endings are. So they share that. And what you also learned, once you know the neuter's nominative form, you always know the neuter's accusative form is the same. So it's anamat with nothing leaves you with anama. Okay? All right. And then on the plural side, does this look like a normal accusative plural nominative case ending? Well, you've already seen it here, haven't you? Isn't that great? You've seen that alpha? Now it's underscored because there's a stem omicron that gets obscured by this. No underscore here because the tau is not a stem vowel. There's no obscuring of anything. So anamata, plural of names. Okay? And anamatone. What's going to happen here? Anamatsi. What does a dental do before a sigma? It will drop out. So you won't see the consonantal stem there. It'll be anamasi. And then back to the same as the nominative, right? Anamata. All right. So let's review the forms. And we'll go ahead and say these together, everybody. Sarx, sarkos, sarki, sarka, sarkis, sarkone, sarxine, which will be written this way, and sarkas. And anama is anama, anamatas, anamati, anama, anamata, anamatone, anamasi, and anamata. All right. So those are your third declension case endings on third declension stems. Any questions about this? Where will you see the real consonantal stem obscured? What two places? Where will we have the most problems with seeing what we're really looking at? Okay, so for the nominative and accusative singular neuter, we're going to have problems there, right? Because if we have a tau, it will fall off. And where else are we going to see problems? Okay, so nominative singular and dative plural, masculine, feminine. Why? That crazy sigma mixing up with these consonants, right? Kappa, sigma iota. So wherever my case ending starts with a sigma and a consonant's right before it, I got some problems if it's a square of stops consonant. Okay? 9 consonants are in the square of stops. That's about 40-something% of the letters. And if you take all the vowels out, it's more than half the consonants of Greek. Okay? So you're going to see it. So get used to those phonetic changes that we've talked about. So on this handout, we're basically dealing with different aspects of Mounce's grammar here. He introduces you to the words tis and t. Tis and t. One of my former students in the biblical languages program at HBU liked to make puns, so he and I were like two peas in a pod. And he wrote out some really great humor for the holiday puns, and one of them was, you know you've studied Greek too long when you hear 'tis the season and you start trying to parse the word tis. There is a Greek word tis, and it's actually an interrogative word when it has the accent mark on that iota. Tis, T, with the accent, is who or what, okay? If it's referring to a person as an interrogative, it's who, like who did this, who stole that, and then if it's referring to something inanimate, then it would be what, so or a state of affairs. What did you do, okay? You would use T for that. Now, this is not to be confused with the tis and t that don't have the accent on the iota. There, it is the indefinite pronoun. Anyone, anything, or someone, something, or a certain one, or a certain thing are the ways that our English translations tend to gloss this indefinite tis and t. For example, if you remember, reading in the Gospels, you might remember reading something like a certain lawyer came, or a certain man came, and it would be something like anthropos tis with that tis form. Okay, so that's what you're looking at. So someone, something, anyone, anything, a certain one, a certain thing. Okay, now why are we talking about tis and t? Because these words are third declension forms. What do they come from? They actually come from the stem tin. So notice that my stem ends with a consonant here, doesn't it? So these are going to be third declension forms that use third declension case endings. So what did you just learn was the masculine and feminine. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this. There's only two forms given for your lexical form, tis and t. So you know there's three genders in Greek, right? But there's only two forms here that have to represent all three genders. So what might that mean? The first form represents masculine and feminine. The second form represents neuter. All right? So you will not be able to tell the difference between masculine and feminine tis. But whatever noun it accompanies will be masculine or feminine in gender, and then you'll be able to know based on what it's modifying. Okay? All right. So take a look here. So we've learned our case endings. Look, it should have been for masculine or feminine nominative singular 10 plus sigma, right? Because sigma is that nominative case ending. What's going to happen to a nu before sigma? It is going to drop out. Dentals fall out before sigma, so that's why you have tis. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, but look at the genitive singular. It's 10, and the omicron sigma has been added, and there's no reason for the nu to go away. And so we're all happy, aren't we? So let's say these together, everybody. Tis, tinos, tinny, and tina. Do you see all the case endings you just learned here? Whoop-de-doo. Isn't that great? All right. Tennis, tenon, and tissy. I know that's what you want to throw. So what should this have been? It should have been tin-c, right? And again, my nu before the sigma has fallen out. So remember how we said, where do you have the problems? Nominative singular, dative plural, because that sigma is interacting with things and causing problems. So tissy, and then everybody tenos. All right. So if we were going to translate this interrogative, remember the nominative form would be used for things like the subject. So, hey, who did this, right? Tenos, it would be of whom, as a question. Of whom? Of whom were you born? Meaning, whose father, right? Who is your father? Or whose son are you? Tinny would be to whom? Tina, use your correct grammar. Whom? Whom did he kill? Right? We don't distinguish between who and whom, but whom is for objects. So nominative plural would be what? Yeah, who or who all, but that who is plural. Genitive plural? Of whom or of whom all. Tissy? To whom or to whom all or to who all. And tenos? Just whom or who all or whom all. Okay, so there you go. The neuter forms. Now remember, generally I'm translating the neuter form T as what. Okay, but realize the word teknon is a neuter noun and it means child. So sometimes you will see a neuter form of T and it'll mean who if it's referring to a person that's neuter in grammatical gender. So be aware of that, okay? Just with that little caveat. So what's the neuter case ending for third declension, for nominative? It's nothing. So I really should have had 10 plus nothing, right? Now, is there any reason for the new to have to fall out if there's nothing that it's interacting with? And what were the letters that Greek words can end with? What English word did we use? Sinner. Okay, so sigma, nu, rho, and any vowel. Well, nu is one of those sinner consonants. So there's really no good reason why 10 couldn't have been the case ending. But as a matter of fact, the nu also drops out for this particular form, and it's just T. Okay? So that is, there's really no good explanation for that. I'm not sure why this happens, but I just accept it on faith. Now, so T. Now, the genitive and datives, because this is masculine and that's neuter, you learn that they're the same ending, right? So they're going to look the same here. And since the feminine happens to match the masculine on this form, they're all going to look the same. So tenos and tini. And then T and T are identical because neuters are the same in the nominative and accusative. Okay? All right. And then over here, we get the alpha, which you already knew about, the own. Tini becomes, or tinsi becomes tissi, just as we saw here, and then back to tina. So the only place where we have anything that's really sort of out of the ordinary then is that form there. Okay? Now, on this indefinite side, anyone or anything, all the forms are the same except that the accent is not on the iota, but on the case ending. If the case ending has an extra syllable. All right? So tis, and then not tenos, but tenos. Tini, tena. Okay? So now let's just talk about translating these because we don't really need to read all the forms together. How would you translate this tis that's unaccented on the iota? Let's use the any translation. Anyone, tenos, of anyone, tini, to anyone, tena, anyone. I'd kill anyone, right? Tenes, anyone, or is it anyone's? No, okay, all right, you can't make that plural, right? Anyone. Tenon, of anyone, or of any people. Tissi, to anyone. And tenos, just anyone, but a plural set of anyone, any group.
Did you also say someone?
Yes, so someone, of a certain one. Right? These would all be acceptable ways of rendering. And then your neuter forms, something, anything, of anything, to anything. Right? Okay, great. So I think that's all we need to say here. So everybody good? All right. Now, if you go to Mounce 10.12, we'll talk about that here.